This webinar series is brought to you by the California Conference of Directors of Environmental Health and graciously sponsored by Decade Software Company. Thanks to Decade, you're absolutely awesome for your generous contribution of the webinar service GoToMeeting, providing technical support during the presentation and for the webcams. Right now I'm going to ask Mike to forward to the next slide since he's controlling the presentation. I am Leslie Limbo, Director of Environmental Health for Yolo County and the chairperson of the CCDEH Information Technology and Data Management Committee. Today we welcome Mike Dickson as our guest speaker. Mike is the Supervisor of Software Development at Contra Costa Health Services. And we have this really exciting presentation. Mike is going to tell us about their app for restaurant scores and how they developed it, how they went through the process of their decision points and coming about with this really great product, which is an open data format which other counties can opt into. After the presentation, we'll have questions and answer period, and Jill Cha from Decade Software will be handling that, will be moderating that. Behind the scenes, we have Errol from Decade Software who's providing technical support, and just in a few minutes we'll provide that phone number in case you're having any problems. I'll provide the information on continuing education units at the end of the presentation. So let's move on to the ground rules, which are on the next slide. We want to make sure everyone's signed in properly in case you are looking for continuing education credits. First of all, when you logged into the WebEx, you should have seen a window like this one. And actually, I just lost my notes. But hold on just a second. Let's see. Just one second. Okay, so when you logged in, you should have typed your name and your email address. If there's multiple people sharing the desktop, you should list all of the names of the people that are sharing the desktop. Let's go to the next slide because I think we are actually off slide. So here's where, this is the window that you should have seen to put in all of the names of the people that are on the call. You enter, next thing that you'll do is when you call in, you use the computer for audio, or you use your phone for audio for the question and answer period. Enter the access code and also enter your attendee ID number found in the window. The attendee ID is very important so that we can identify you as a caller for purposes of continuing education. If you are not using the telephone to call in, choose use computer for audio. You must have speakers and microphone for this option. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. So here's that window I was just talking about. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so if you're having any technical difficulty at all, Errol is on standby to help you with any problems, and I'm going to talk for a little while you get a pen and paper and write this number down in case there's any difficulties throughout this presentation. You'll have this number to call Errol. Jill has muted your phone, so we cannot hear you, but at the end we'll have time for question and answer, and I'll go over those rules when we get to that section. And now, let's go on to the next slide. I'm happy to introduce Mike Dickson. Please take it away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. When Daryl called and asked me to present some of the information about the application that we have, and for those of you who are not familiar with the application we have built, if you can take a moment right now or after the presentation, take your phone out or your iPad or your Android device and go to either the iTunes Store or the Google Play Store, and you can download our application. That's called the California Food Inspector application is what we have named it, and hopefully after the presentation you'll understand why we named it that. I know Marilyn Underwood, who is our Director of Environmental Health here in Contra Costa County, has been out promoting this application at some of the meetings you've had. But if you have not had a chance to look at the application or become familiar with it, I'm going to show a little bit about the application during this presentation, since this is based a lot on that. But if you don't have the application, I would say you can quickly go online and download that. It's available free, and it's available on most major operating systems. I think Android goes back to Gingerbread. I might be mistaken on that since our latest update to Android, but we're continually updating those and supporting these, and I'll talk more about that as we move on. Who am I? I am the Health Services Supervisor for Software Development. I run a small group of software developers. We do intranet, and mobile application development for Contra Costa County. I have a group mostly software developers. I used to have a designer and a wordsmith that would work with me, but he's since been pulled off to another part of the organization. So we're not a very big group that does this sort of thing, but I think I have a slide at the end that shows some of the other applications that we've built that I think you guys might find of interest, but we'll see if we have time for that at the end. The origins of the application, the way our organization is set up, and I know every county is set up probably different. There's probably as many organizational flowcharts for the county and environmental health and IT and IT support as there are counties. We have one large IT organization that supports all of the county's health department, and that is our hospital and public health and all the different things. So Maryland sent in a request and asked us about making their inspection data available to the public. And there is a process through it that I believe Decade offers where you can use a web-based client to go in and search for information. But Maryland had asked us to do more than that. And so we looked at what those options were. I think initially she wanted us to try and put it on Yelp. I called Yelp and several other services similar to that. And at the time, none of them seemed interested. They said, every one of them actually said, we're not interested at this time. So we kind of put our thinking hats on and thought about other ways we could present that data out to the public. And this was about three and a half years ago when this initial conversation and thinking went on. And since then, Yelp has become interested in that, and we'll maybe get into that a little bit more as we go on. And we looked at what really, we wanted to take this information that was collected, paid for and collected by the public, and make that available to them in as responsible a way as we possibly could. So we looked at the data and the information that was available. We are using Decade software product, and we host our databases locally. Now I know they have different versions of that, where some of them, the whole system is hosted by Decade. Ours, we hosted ourselves, and I know there's a data link between the two. So when I sat down with my team, we were in a meeting, we started discussing what we might be able to do for them. The two things we really looked at was web-based or mobile-based. And I'm showing here the advantages for kind of doing each one of them. A web-based solution is quite quick to do. You do a drill down into your database and put a visual front end on it. So you can get that out to market quite quickly. And the other advantage of that is portability. Web browsers are available on just about every device. All modern computing devices now have a web browser available to them. So that's one great advantage of that. But in the mobile field, you have what I feel are a lot of other advantages. One being location aware. If you're familiar with the data that you are collecting, most of you are familiar with that, I hope. The location is part of that data set. Where is the specific facility that you are inspecting? And with a mobile device, you can take advantage of knowing where the mobile device is and doing coordination to where the facility is, and is it close to me? And we're all, I hope everyone's familiar with that, and with their smartphones, that your phone knows where you are, and You can do all kinds of things like that. Another advantage of the mobile environment, I think, is it's difficult to pull your phone out and open up the browser, go to the web page, and type in the information. With the modern touch keyboards, it's just, it's quite a few steps you need to go through to find out, to get into the information you want to have. And it can be slow based on your provider, all kinds of things like that. So the advantage with mobile is what we consider native code. The code and the application itself are running natively on your device and not contingent upon a web page. And the latency is involved in that to get it. So it's a lot, from a user perspective, it's a lot easier, and I have a bullet point there, quick access. You can pull your phone out with our application, and if we have a kind of a small mall with a dozen food places across the street from our office, and I can go stand there and push around me, and I can look at quickly get a view of the inspection data for all of those facilities right there in front of me. And I can also do other searches. I'll show a little bit about that in just a minute. And then the other thing is the user comfort level. People are now very familiar with using their smartphones and applications for doing all kinds of things. So those were kind of the decision points that we went through in deciding on whether or not, on what we were going to do with our solution. The other thing we wanted to think about was primarily we wanted this to be useful to the county residents. They're the ones who own this data, and they're the ones paying for it, and we want to get that information out to them so that they can use it, and especially for closures and things like that. And I think Maryland's listed on a column. I hope I have all that right. And when I was sitting around with my developers, the thing we try to do with all of our applications is make them extensible. Anytime we sit down and devise an application, we think about what else could this data be used for? What else? How can we build this thing so that in a year from now, if someone comes with another idea to use this information, how can we make it so that it can be used in that reason? And that's really where this application and a lot of what I want to talk about today comes from. It's the extensibility for a wider audience. We know that our county residents don't view their community as just the county, and they don't drive around and see the county lines drawn on the roadside, that people travel and from city to city, and they cross county lines and district lines all the time and don't think twice about it. So in a real big picture sense of view, I wanted to see the application be able to pull in data from as many sources as possible so that our users, and we're in the Bay Area, Contra, Costa County, and people move around that area quite easily, and it would be nice to be able to pull in the restaurant or the food inspection data from anywhere in the area that people are likely to travel to, whether it be San Francisco or Marin County or Contra Costa County. And so we really wanted to build the application such that we could make it so that that affordance was available to us if other counties were interested in doing that. So we did put a lot of effort into, I would say maybe half the effort into developing the application was done into making it so that we could pull in data from outside sources and present it on the devices. And so we're going to show, and that's probably the main topic we're going to talk about today. Okay, so for those of you who have seen our application, have downloaded it, this is the kind of what we call a splash screen for the application, and this is what you see when you launch the application. And we have this application available in, like I said, the two major mobile operating systems, Android and iOS. We have not looked into, and I doubt we will, look at Windows Mobile. We can easily do that based upon the way we did our development, the way we've broken out the functionality of the application. We could quite quickly develop something for that, but there's not a really, we haven't got a lot of questions, people asking why don't you have it on Windows Mobile. So we're focusing on the two major ones. So once again, we have phone or tablet. We have made tablet affordances for the difference between having an iPad versus an iPhone. You can see, there's those have used the two different devices. there's different screen real estate and affordances available for a tablet that are quite different from a phone. So we've built it so that those things are built right in based upon whatever device you're using. The most primary thing of all these applications, and I think a lot of the other counties have web-based applications that do the same thing, is you can do a search for a specific establishment. And so as you can see on the screen right now, we've got some screenshots from our application. And this is, if you look on the bottom right-hand side of the screen, this is the search function, where you can go in and type in the name or an address or whatever. Standard search queries are available there for looking for a specific place. We use this if you're going out to dinner. My wife will ask, we're going to dinner at this place, what's the rating? And so we'll go in and do a search on that and get the information that way. Another thing, and this is what I talked about when I talked about a native mobile application that knows where you're located. I use this one the most frequently. It's places nearby, and that's the next button on the bottom, which is near me. And what this does is it takes your current location and searches our database for things nearby you. And if you're in an area of high density of food facilities, you'll get quite a few of them. It might not be the one in front of you, but it'll be, you know, in the top 3 or 4 will be where will come up if that's where you're having dinner or something. You want to look at the information, and that's available, like I said, again, through the Near Me. And this is one of the big reasons, I think, to go native on a mobile application environment. And you can get all kinds of more information. You can click on these and you can drill down and get the inspection information on any place. And we're showing some screenshots here. One thing you'll notice on this screen is the inspection detail provided by Contra, Costa, California. And we have the county logo there. Now, as other agencies join the application, one of the things we take is your county or agency's logo and place it on there, so that you, in a sense, the application is branding the data from you and not from Contra Costa County. So if I'm going to San Francisco for dinner and I look something up, it will show the seal of San Francisco and not Contra Costa County and for each one of those. So, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when I get to branding later on in the presentation. Now you can see that I hope everyone on the call is familiar with the types of violations and those sorts of things. So this is the way that that's presented to the user once they've picked a facility. All right, so once we kind of came up with what we were going to do, we needed to break down the work. And this might get a little deep for some of you, I'm not sure. But coming from a development background, I thought I'd shoot for the middle of maybe the high to the middle as far as the detail. And if you want me to get into detail, I certainly can. We can go, you know, really deep into the technology behind how all these pieces work. But I thought I'd just describe each one of them because it kind of will give you an understanding of how this system works. So there's 3 core pieces of this application. One is the back-end and data logic, and this is just some servers here in our location. They could be anywhere, that take the data, store in the database, and handle a query when it comes in, whether it be for location or a name search or that kind of information, and feeds it out to whoever is requesting the information. All right. And this is also the part of the system that pulls the data from other agencies and puts it in our database so that it can be used by the users. Then there's a piece in there, kind of a transport layer we'll call web services, and that's a term I'm very familiar with, but I don't know if everyone else is. And that's the mechanism by which your phones, any application you use on your phone that talks back to a database, and that's probably just about everything on your phone, calls a web service. And those are kind of like APIs that are done over the intranet. And so our system will call back to when you're using the application, it calls a web service that has an address on the internet where to get the information. And those web services are all encrypted So from the time your phone makes a query back to our database and sends that back, all of that information is encrypted from point to point. So there's no worry about that. I know this information is public, but in today's day and age, we all need to be concerned about security and at least aware about where things are encrypted. Then the last part of our development was the UI and the mobile, the app-specific development that goes on. And the UI is the user presentation, what the user sees, what the colors are, what the buttons look like, how it interacts when you touch your phone and device. And those are specific to each operating system that you're running on. iOS handles the calls, and the functions behind that are a lot different than what goes on in iOS versus Android. And so what we've done is once the backend was all in place and the web services were built, we had two developers, one who was familiar with iOS and one who's familiar with Android, go off and build specifically for those things. And they were under the direction of a single person who's in charge of our UI design. Now, if you were to hold a iPhone running our application and an Android phone up together, they would function similarly but not the same. And the reason for that is we tried to use what they call the design language of the device. If you have used an iPhone and an Android phone, they function a little bit differently the way that the users interact with them. So we try to take those cues from the devices themselves, but use the same screen look and feel for each thing. So I hope I hit the right level for everyone on that. So where do we start from? We have decade software is what our inspections are done with. So we started with the data that we had from them, and we had a developer look at their database design and layout, and we based our back-end application on that. And we built all the core logic for the searching and all of that based upon that database design on the back end. And then as other agencies have come on board, we put that into an abstraction layer that's pretty much based on Decade's design. Their system is straightforward, and I hope we'll have time to go in and drill in a little bit about what the different types of files are that are sent across the wire. And I hope everyone's familiar with those, whether it be the facility or the inspection or violations, that sort of thing. So that's what goes on the back end, and that handles the majority of the heavy lifting is done here on the servers. Okay, so here I'm going to dig into the import formats. These are the formats that we currently support. The Lives 1.0 specification, we're going off that a little bit. We have found already some parts of the Lives data that don't quite work, and I'm not sure who the governing body is for that standard, but it's a good standard and one that I kind of like to promote for people to use, because you get kind of two things for one with that. With the Lives data standard, you can have your data available on Yelp, and we can pull that data together. Now, that's up to each organization to decide where they want their data to be available to. We have a format called, our developer calls Simple 1.0, and that is pretty much what it sounds like. It's the easiest way to go. If you have no IT support and are going to try and do this yourself, that's the format that I would recommend sticking to. We have our own Contra Costa format that we use. There's an internet download, which if you have a web-based system now, this would be a system that I would maybe steer someone to with their IT group where they can make it available to us that way. And we have one organization that uses that now. And then we have the ability to do FTP, which is File Transfer Protocol, and we can do secure FTP as well. No one has asked for that, so we really haven't turned that on and fleshed that out yet. But so those are the four formats. I'm going to go into each one in a little bit right now. With the Lives data standard, there's basically three, and the CBS is comma-separated file. I hope most people are familiar with that. You can export your spreadsheets and things in that same format. And so what that is there's three files that get moved, and that's the business, the inspections, and the violations. And like I said, I hope everyone's familiar with their databases and the way that they collect their data. And So each one of those is, we can drill down maybe when we get in deeper if people are interested in going down and looking at those formats. We did make a modification to the Lives 1.0 data, so I don't know if we want to call it 1.1 question mark. We needed to modify the violations and add an extra field in there called violation type, and we came across this when we've been working with Monterey County and incorporating their data. And there was not a way to really have this information in there, whether it's an initial routine follow-up or a complaint. So we've added that in for that specific case, and no, it's one of the areas with the Lives data. I hope we can work with whoever's running the standard and incorporate things back. But right now, I don't know who's managing that standard. Simple 1.0 format, like I said, is a single file, and it holds all the information, and it can be almost as easy as a spreadsheet dump for us. And I'll go ahead and show a little bit more of that, I hope, in a second. And then our Contra Costa format has 6 files that are here, and it has the greatest control over what your content is. And it has, as you can see, the facility, the inspection, and the violation files that are very similar to the Lives data. But we also have a few other ones for looking up and giving detailed information about the codes that are being sent across. So if you want to have maximum flexibility, this would be the way to go. And it depends upon, you need to talk to, look at the data that how you're collecting your data, what information is available, and make a decision based upon how much control you want to have. Or I think that the Lives data is fine for most things, but each organization wants to do things differently a little bit, so we're trying to be as flexible as possible as we can on that. And then we have the internet download, and I just put this together so you can kind of get a feel for what we do with that. It's a website we can format for just about any file type, and it can be automatically downloaded from your website. And you can call us for assistance on that. And but as usual, your agency is responsible for making them available to us. Okay, web services, I don't know if I need to go too much into that. I think I'll leave that for question and answers if people want to know more about how web services work. There's all kinds of technical buzzwords, JSON and SOAP and things like that. And there are different levels of the protocol that allow for the communication to happen over HTTP, which is the protocol that is used on the web. So we can go into that, but I wanted to make sure that everybody was at least introduced to the idea of web services. It's something that's used heavily on all your mobile devices, so if you didn't know about it, it's something new. And then I'll go into our mobile device development a little bit. We had one developer do each one of these. Apple development is very different from Android development. Apple development is done in Apple's version of C++ called Objective-C. And you need to go to the Apple developer.apple.com and download the development kits there and the SDKs and become familiar with how they do their development. And they have a quite nice development environment and tools for building mobile applications. Since we've done our application, they have a simpler language they use. And so if you want to develop mobile development on that, that's fine as well. I think it's called Swift. We still are using Objective-C though. Then there's the Apple licensing. We have, for this application to be available on the App Store, it's $99 a year. And so there is that small cost included in this. And so we cover that cost every year. And there's also another licensing model that they use called Enterprise, which we use quite extensively. And that is for releasing applications only inside of our organization. So we can have our own app store where we release things just to our employees. And so that's kind of the Apple side. On the Android side, the development is done in Java. It's actually Dalvik is the type of Java. It's a specific Google implementation of Java that they use. But anyone who can write in Java will understand the difference. The syntax is almost identical. And the Google model to get on the Play Store, I think it was $25. So that's a real low-cost entry to get on the Google Play Store. Simple to do. And I think I believe it was a one-time fee. I don't think it's yearly like our Apple license. And with both of those, once you get the development going and whatnot, both Apple and Google offer the services to go in and monitor your downloads, how many, you get all kinds of statistics about who's downloading your application, what versions they're downloading, what devices are they downloading to, what are the operating systems, so your developers have a understanding of where they maybe should target their next release for, that kind of stuff. And the users can give feedback on both of those, the App Store or the Google Play Store. Users can go back and give feedback. One thing to note about feedback is sometimes you really don't want to, any user can post anything you want, anything they want to say about your application. So if someone in Georgia were to download our application, it would not be very useful to them, but they could go ahead and post a comment on it. So you need to read comments with a little bit of a grain of salt, if you will, depending upon what your application is and who's using it. So that's our mobile device development. Like I said, we have one person that was in charge of the UI, we call it the UX, the user experience, and work with both the developers to pull that together for those devices. So I'm going to jump out of the slide right now, and I'm going to show you a little bit about what it looks like to actually use the system. And I hope some of you are still awake. Okay, so I'm going to jump over. This is our intranet. We have a link from here off to our food facility inspection application. So this is leaving our intranet and going out to our external site. Well, this is still internal to us. This is a system where we can manage all the different agencies. As you see right now, we have Alameda County data, Black Flag City, and that was our developer clearly using from Burning Man. This was our test outside facility. We have Contra Costa County, and we have San Francisco. We're currently working with Monterey County. We hope to have them up quite soon. I hope in a couple of weeks, but I can't stick to that. The man we've been working there is off on vacation for a week, but hopefully we'll get that done real soon. We've done a few tests, and there's a little more work that needs to be done. Like I said earlier, I think we would like to get the county, the Los Angeles data, but no one knows where that live feed is that I've spoken to. If somebody on the call has that URL, can give it to us, we could have that data up in probably a couple hours to get that completed. Some of the other counties that we're hoping to work with, San Luis Obispo County was one that we had initially contacted us to get involved, and we realized that they have their data hosted on Decade, I believe it's web-based, where all their inspection data and everything is hosted by Decade. And so in order for that to work, they're going to have to work with Decade getting a live data feed or something like that. So I'm hoping to work with Decade more in the future about potentially maybe we could get a feed directly from them and have the agencies contact them and maybe sign a waiver or something saying it's okay to send the data off for this application. And I don't think the development work will be too hard on their end, but I can't really say right now. And I know Sonoma County is one that has shown interest. We haven't gone very far with them. And it's tough to do these things because the resource to make this available is not always a high priority in the work that's done every day. But we think that as more and more information is available, like I said, that we really get a case of 1 + 1 equaling 3. That as as the general public can use our applications and go around the state of California, I think they'll use it more and more because you're not confined by county lines and that sort of stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and log on, and I am set up right now. I'm going to log on to this is our external site. And so if you contact us and want to join in with this is, we'll give you a login, and this will be what you'll get with your agency's information entered into it. I am logged in right now. I'm a super user, so I'm logged in as Alameda County. And a few things that we require above the LIS data feed is, like right here, is the logos of your county so that they can be presented in the application. And there's a division URL, so if people want to go in and get a link to a web page by clicking on the application, they can get that information. And you can go ahead and have your department things, and you can see the information that's available there. One new thing we've been working on is adding is the grading. There's not, to my knowledge, a standard across California for how we do the grading. What we're looking at is the stoplight kind of modality where it's green, yellow, and red. I know that some agencies are using scores, those sorts of things. And this is where you can go in and kind of tweak with that sort of information. And there's some text here about how you, information up here on the top about doing this sort of stuff and whether you want to do grades and things like that. There's an upload section here where people can go ahead and upload data if that's the format that they're in. Most of them now, we go out and pull the information. And if you want to go in and look at the detailed information, now these are the, I talked about these at a real high level earlier, but you can, we have the information here if you want to go in and drill down into it. So here's the LIS data feed. And as you can see, it's a lot of information, but this is what the development, the technology people need to know in order to make these things work. And here's the field detail IDs of each one of the files and what it is and types of requirements. And this might be probably getting a little too deep for the people on this call, but if not, there's a way to get all this information from us. And you can see down here on the violation, there's the one that we added, which is the violation type. Go ahead and close that one. And we have those for all the different types of things. You know, our own internal format. We have all the information here for that if you want to do. And this one's actually, we written this as paper, so it's the most detailed. But so we have all that information available to everybody. This is database diagrams, and like I said, this is probably a little too deep into the technology for most people on this call, but I wanted to make this available so that if you're working with someone in your IT department, you'll know that we have thought this through and have the information available to that. Another thing is we have the settings where you can go ahead and control your information, release notes about the different versions of everything we have going on, and we have a support area where you can contact us about whatever parts of the application you'd like to do. I'll go back to agency settings here. One thing that we have done, and when we built this, is we realized that people want to have control over the availability of their data. And right up here at the very top is the opt-out button. You can set up this with our organization, log in with your credentials, and with the click of one button, you can turn off the ability for that data to go out to the general public. So if there's something wrong in your data or you're doing testing or whatnot, you can quickly and easily log in, click the opt-out button, and your data will stop sharing your data immediately from the time you click that. And so that's something that I think that the counties want to be able to have some control over that, and so we put that, built that right in, knowing that you might want to turn that off for a brief period of time or something when you're going through this process. So that's really, kind of where we are with that. All those tools are available. The documentation is there online for everybody. All right, let me jump back out of that, and I hope everyone's still with me. All right, branding. When we first did the application, and released it to the Google Play Store and the iTunes Store, we branded the application quite heavily for Contra Costa County. Since then, as we've been adding more data, we have been unbranding that as best we can. For those of you who went on any of the stores during the call, you can see that we have, and I'm going to jump right over to the iTunes Store for an example. Okay, so here is the application as it is displayed in the iTunes Store. And we have tried to brand this as generic as possible so everyone can use it and not feel like Contra Costa County is taking credit. But there is the only one thing we really have now is who the seller is, and that's the only place in the application where our information is. The descriptions here we can change. If you want to join in with us and have your communications group craft something for this, we are glad to put that in. It's quite easy for us to change store to store when we upload new information. Right now, we're talking San Francisco, Oakland, Walnut Creek, which covers the 3 areas that we currently have data for, which is San Francisco, Alameda County, and Contra Costa County. We'll change this when Monterey comes up, and as we add more and more data here. What I guess for branding, what I want to say is that we do not want to brand this for Contra Costa County. We want to brand it for everybody who's using it as best we can. I know that's something that can be a sticking point with some groups. We try to do this as best we can. And once again, when you go in and use the application, the branding for the inspection stuff, once you're in the application using it is branded for your location, and there's nothing in here about us on this. So I just want to make that clear to everyone that we don't want to raise our hand and say, hey, look what we've done. We want to do it as a look what we can do together type of thing. But you know, and if we wanted to change, if somebody wants to come up with the $99 a year, we can change the name of where this is from, and I don't know what it would be, but that's certainly available. And this is just showing quick screenshots of what the application looks like, and you can see that we've designed it a little bit different for the iPad. Since there is the real estate, there's not pop-ups for the inspection data. It'll just show it in the device natively. Okay, let me. Of course, it's not going to go away for me, is it? There we go. Okay, and we'll go back to the slides here. So that's what the information is on branding. I think we're just about ready to go into questions here. What I thought I'd really briefly touch on is some of the other stuff we've done in the enterprise environment. We've built a phone directory so that all of our employees have a directory of all the other employees on their phones, and they can quickly look someone up. You can touch their facility location. It'll give you driving directions or a map of where that person is, or call them directly from the application. It'll launch the phone and call it from your phone. So that's a nice one to have. Another one we have is called Go Kits. In the event of an emergency, there is certain information that you want to have your emergency responders have with them at all times. We used to send things out on thumb drives to our users, and these are secured thumb drives that had a bunch of files on them. And in order for this to work, the user would have to have that with them, have a laptop, plug the thing in, and to be able to view the documents. Where now we push the documents to their device, which they have with them hopefully all the time, and that information is pushed and stored locally on their device. So if all network is down, nothing's available, as long as they have power to their phone in their hand, they can pull up the information that is relevant to what they're doing. And so we've opened that up to all the different organizations in the county. They all develop their own Go Kits for their employees for things they want them to have locally on their phones. We've also developed an application called For the Record, which manages meetings, and you can send information back and forth among different groups for meetings, for approval, or for suggestions for topics on their meetings, things like that. And we have one other application that might fall into things of interest here, and that's called IRIS. It's our incident response system, and it's for countywide emergencies. When the dock's activated, people can now go in, instead of having to come together as a group in a physical location, they can manage incidents from their devices, from their mobile device, wherever they may be, whether it be their phone. iPad's a lot better for doing that because you're editing documents and information. And it allows for communication between, the hazmat team and the communications team and all the different groups, and you can follow along what's going on during any disaster right from your mobile device in real time. So I thought I'd give that a little plug. If you're interested in more information about our application or want to join us, with this or want to talk technology or have ideas for us, anything like that, I am here. I love doing this stuff. Mobile development, I think, is the future of what we're all doing as far as technology and information. So there's my address here at the county, so you can send me questions, anything you want there. It's the best way to get a hold of me for work. So, you know, any questions at all, information like that. I believe also you can contact Marilyn if you have a relationship, a relationship with her or something along those lines. That she's been very open to the kind of work we've been doing and whatnot. So if you want more information, please feel free to contact me on anything about this. If you're mildly interested, if you're ready to jump in feet first, I'm here and available, and I have developers and people who can help with any questions you might have. It might even be too technical for me. So that is it, and I'm going to jump to questions. Leslie, are you going to manage?
Oh, actually, Jill is going to be the one that will.
Ground rules, right?
Right. Yeah. So, well, actually, if Jill could go over the ground rules, there's, if you don't mind, Jill.
I don't. So now we have time for questions and answer. If you do happen to have a question for Mike or Leslie, you can go ahead on your panel. There's a little hand that says raise hand. You just go ahead and click on it. It should be to your left-hand side of the panel. You just click, and then once I see your hand raised, I'll unmute you, and you can ask your questions for Mike. And once your question has been answered, you can just unraise your hand as well. So if anybody have a question for Mike, please just raise your hand. That's on your left panel, and then I'll be sure to unmute you to ask Mike the question. Mike, I did get a question while you're presenting. I didn't get who is it from, but they asked, if Contra Costa is using lives, how are the restaurants that are closed due to non-compliance handled? It is our understanding that live does not reveal such situation.
Okay, I am not familiar with the lives data. In Contra Costa County, we are not publishing our lives data to Yelp at this time. Maryland has not requested that we open that up yet, and I don't know much about lives and the way Yelp does that. If in the lives data standard you say that a facility is closed, it will show up on the device as closed with our application. So like I said, the lives data standard, we were not involved in coming up with that standard or publishing it or anything. We've just noticed that that seems to be a direction that people are going, and we certainly can work with that. We want to, like I said, try and be inclusive as possible with that. So I can't speak to the lives data standard very much. I'm not involved with it at all as far as they have not solicited us for comments, questions, anything. So we've just looked at their standard and adopted it. I hope that answers that. Yes?
Cool, thank you. Semitel asks, have you had feedback from the businesses?
We have had some feedback from a lot of the organizations, as I'm sure most of the people on the call are aware of, that the organizations or the businesses that you're inspecting have various reactions based upon probably what the inspection data and the violations were. One thing we talked about doing in our application was allowing people to report violations. We actually went out and talked to some of our local food places and realized quite quickly that that's probably a bad idea. Not something we could turn on real quick in our application, but we felt that that was opening up a can of worms, and I think that the businesses that were being inspected felt that that could potentially cause all kinds of problems, and I believe that everybody on the call can think of a dozen of them off the top of their head of problems you might have with allowing anyone with an application to report a violation. So it's been good. I think everybody agrees that that information should be available to the public. I think some places that are maybe have more violations, or a little hesitant to have it be that available to the public. But I think data wants to be free. It wants to be out available to people. So all in all, I think we've had very positive from the facilities.
Thank you, Mike. We have a question from Nick Reyes. Nick, you could go ahead and ask.
Hi, Jill. Thanks. Mike, we tried to search when we were online. We were looking for Starbucks in San Francisco, but we're not anywhere near San Francisco, and we didn't get the hits we wanted. Presumably, if all this data were available across California, and you were traveling, how would you narrow it down to that specific facility if it seems to be sorting by near me first?
Yeah. The idea being, if you have the name of the facility, now Starbucks is going to be a tough one because they have so many. I'm just going to, I got mine here, and I'm going to type in Starbucks.
I'll give you an easy one, Mike.
I give you, well, it's easy if there's only one of them. Here's Starbucks coffee, and you can see, I hope, does everybody have the application? When I type in Starbucks, I get a ID number afterwards, Starbucks coffee, and I have pages of them. So I can find one here. Here's Starbucks in Fillmore in San Francisco. So unless you're standing in front of the facility, if it's a chain like that, it's quite difficult, actually. And we're presenting the data the best we can here. So here I have the data quickly available to me from Starbucks coffee in 2222 Fillmore in San Francisco. So if you have problems with specific places, please let me know.
Yeah, basically when I do that search, San Francisco doesn't even come up on the list. I get half a dozen Fremonts first, and then it varies across the board. So it looks like it's sorted by distance to me first, which makes sense for a near-me search. But then it would be nice to be able to put Starbucks San Francisco and narrow it down that way.
Okay.
A Google-like search.
Yeah, that's kind of the gold standard, isn't it, the Google. So I will talk to our developers and talk about putting that in.
Cool. If that were the case, then we would be extremely curious.
Yeah, one thing, okay, we can certainly do that. That's we can have it so we can put in more search options into it as well, and work on improving that. That's the first time. Like I said, we've just started adding other agencies in the past 6 months, and so I don't know. The two we've added actually are Alameda County and San Francisco County, and neither of them approached us actually to have the application. Their data is available online to anybody who wants it, and so we just pulled their data and put it in for both of those.
We just have 2 more minutes. I have one more question from Curtis. Curtis,
I have a question too.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Curtis, and then Leslie.
Thank you. Curtis Zumwalt, Placer County. Hi, Mike. Hey, I just wanted to know on the data transfer. We're using an older Envision. We're upgrading to the current Envision. And we really don't want to do a lot of double data entry. How smooth is that transfer going for you to get it out of the mobile into another environment?
I have no idea about the decade side Envision side of things.
Just wondering how to get, okay.
The data comes to us in the format that I've shown,
right?
And we just purpose it for the mobile device for display only.
Okay.
So however you collect it into a database schema or some mechanism where you store that information. And this application just takes it from wherever. If you were to join us, whatever county, we would pull it from the internet, or you could, go online.
Run a script. All right. I was just wondering what that would entail a little bit. And then just a comment on the complaint part. When I was working in Nevada County a few years ago, they did an online complaint countywide, and we thought we'd get a whole lot of complaints. Turns out most of them were potholes, and code compliance became very busy. but
Yeah.
not much for environmental health. It was a lot less than we thought.
Yeah, I think one thing that Marilyn brought up with us, and one that I thought about, wasn't one of the ones off the top of my head, was liability. If someone goes onto your app and reports something that potentially could be, I don't know,
right.
Something really bad, and you don't respond to it for 2 days, no one saw it, or you need to have check mechanisms put in place, and I'm certainly not going to commit to that for your county.
Right, right. That was one of the issues they resolved too. Was it didn't get posted for everybody to see. It came in through the app and then was emailed to the various departments for consideration.
Yeah, I think that if we talk to county council in any of these counties, that would be a red flag for everybody.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Curtis. And
Another question?
Yeah, we have one more question from Leslie, and then we can go ahead and start the ending slides.
Just very quickly, Michael, when I was searching for Starbucks on the app, I found Starbucks Coffee Company, Starbucks number, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
A lot of different variation in how that restaurant name is put in there. Do you foresee that as a problem, and do you have a suggested solution, or is this something that we need to work on in the future?
That's something that we need to work on. I'll have my development team look at that. I'll give them that feedback as soon as we're off the call. That potentially is a problem, because the way that, especially as we go California-wide, the way each agency puts that data in for Starbucks is going to vary the way the search goes. That said, it's a solvable problem quite easily. I think we can go in and build heuristics into the database and the search engine that will negate a lot of that. But back to the original question about that, I certainly understand that, and that was one of the things Marilyn brought to us when we were originally building the application is, what if you are going somewhere, you are traveling on business to, Orange County or somewhere, and you want to find the restaurant inspections for around where your hotel is. That's one thing we've been talking about putting into the application is, let me put in a location and you give me the responses of the things around that, not just where am I, but around a certain location. So that certainly could help with Starbucks in San Francisco search. But even Starbucks in San Francisco is going to give you, I think there's more than 10 in San Francisco.
Yeah, I found it. I had to scroll down several pages and found it, but there's a lot.
I think that's a great test case, because it is not an issue where it's a specific thing. It's the problem of many. One interesting thing of note on that in San Francisco is when I first handed the application to my wife to look something up, she went and looked up something in the Presidio, which is technically not in San Francisco, so it didn't show up in the application. And so I thought that was interesting. So, but once again, we really want to talk to everybody about these kinds of things, and I'll carry on a email conversation with anybody as long as you want to talk about this stuff. I'm fascinated by this. My developers are really interested in it, so it's not something that we don't think about a lot. So we are open to any feedback. You can criticize us to death. We love that. I don't have any problem with that. So yeah, like I said, contact us, please.
Great. This is awesome. I hope that this becomes a statewide standard. I think this is useful for the public as well as the regulators and also the businesses. As we know, the businesses benefit from good scores. More people will frequent the businesses that have a high score. So I hope we see this.
We really want to have this, be used by everybody, for everybody. Like I said earlier, we don't want to brand this as Contra Costa County or anything. We're not here to wave our hands. We want to get this data available to everyone, and I think statewide would be fantastic. Like I said, we hope we can work further with Decade, so that at least people that are Decade clients can easily jump on board with us. And Maryland has had a lot of different feedback from counties, most of it very positive, and I think most people are just caught in that next step and connecting their IT or whatnot resources with us to make this happen. I think that's where most groups are.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Mike. We only have 1 minute left, so let me go over a couple things. Let's forward to the next slide, if you don't mind.
Okay.
We're going to talk very quickly. For those people seeking continuing education credit hours, please go to ccdeh.com. And there is a fee for that. I think, excuse me, it's $25. So go to ccdeh.com. You can follow the link right on the home page. And then let's forward to the next slide. Whether or not you're seeking continuing education credit hours or not, your feedback is really valuable. We want to make these webinars as valuable to you as possible. So please fill out the online survey. And next week, please join us we'll have Dylan Rowe from Alameda County talking about using GIS in the development of their LAMP. So I hope you will join us next Wednesday at 9 for that presentation. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.